from their cruise on the Diamond Princess in Japan to here in their home at St. George. I'm Erin Cox. I'll have the interview you'll only see here on Fox 13.
We all hoped it would happen. We've been praying it would happen, and it did indeed happen.
Utah's governor talking about how the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will speed up our state's vaccination efforts. Hear how this new vaccine, just approved by the FDA, will help protect Utahns, especially in rural areas.
What is the future of the oil and gas industry here in Utah's Uinta Basin? Will it be overtaken by clean energy, or will they be able to keep the industry going? We'll talk to both sides coming up.
Trying to prove a point that it's very sickening that people are writing black-owned business.
And two entrepreneurs claim they were harassed for being black business owners. How they turned the moment into a teachable opportunity.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
So I slept in the basement. She was upstairs, and they want us to have masks when we were in the same room and stay away from each other. So that was kind of weird and different and hard, but we made it work.
That's Mark Jorgensen, the first man to be treated for COVID-19 in Utah, describing what living with the virus was like. It was on this day 1 year ago that healthcare providers in our state announced that they were treating him for the virus after going on a cruise near Japan. Hard to imagine COVID-19 coming full circle in a way. 365 days for Mark Jorgensen. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Schnee.
And I'm Amy Nay. It really is hard to wrap your mind around. Fox 13's Erin Cox was at Intermountain Medical Center in Murray last year when state officials made that announcement. She is the only local reporter to go down to St. George to catch up with Mark and his wife.
Erin shares what the couple learned during their ordeal.
This is where we learned that Mark Jorgensen would be the first Utahn treated for COVID-19. However, he did not spread the virus to anyone else. There's not much that can stop Mark and Jerry Jorgensen from enjoying their lives.
Hi! Yay!
The St. George couple goes mountain biking 4 to 5 times a week and are planning their first trip out of the country since last year.
I'd say I have a little nervousness.
Nervous because they have to test negative for COVID-19 before returning, and they are still seeing the effects from the last time they traveled.
And so I go back to my gym to my Pilates class, and then I get a call from the manager of the gym, says we don't want you to come back.
Jerry says she's even received death threats on social media.
You come here, we will kill you. I think that's kind of a death threat. So the sheriff, Washington County, he called me and he says, you put my number on speed dial because I know about these threats.
All because Mark and Jerry were the first few from Utah to contract the coronavirus while vacationing on the Diamond Princess cruise ship in Japan. The couple was selected for testing on the cruise because Mark is considered high risk from kidney transplants. They didn't think Jerry would be the one to test positive.
Kind of got real in that moment. They had this printed sheet and just handed it to us and says, because of your test results, you'll be taken off the ship.
Jerry was driven in an ambulance to Fukushima, 4 hours away. No one spoke English.
Some people were actually quite appalled that I would have the audacity to get off and go back to America while my wife was in a hospital in Japan.
Well, did you have much choice?
I kind of did. I mean, even if I could go to the hospital, we wouldn't see each other.
One airplane.
A cargo plane is what brought Mark and 170 others back from their cruise. He had not tested positive, but Mark believes it was on that flight home that he got COVID.
Okay, we are 9 hours into the flight.
Not something I'd want to repeat.
Once back in the States, Mark tested positive. He wasn't showing any symptoms, which was a huge factor in the decision to transfer Mark to a biocontainment unit here in Utah.
Good evening, everyone. It's great to be with you again.
Do I really sound like that?
Yes.
Geez, that's weird.
Here I am in a Japanese hospital. I don't know the name of it. None of the doctors speak English. We communicate with an iPad.
Although they were continents apart, the couple says they never felt truly alone.
When I got that clearance that I could leave the Japanese hospital, and they stood out, and I got in the Uber, and we had to go down a ways before we made the turn, and they just kept waving. And it reminded me of my mom. It was so sweet. And, they just stood there and kept waving, and they were crying, and I was crying, and that was really spiritual, and it was so heartfelt. And if I hadn't have gone through it, I wouldn't have ever experienced anything like that.
Sweet memories amidst the chaos of their trip.
Come on in, special guest. Okay, yay!
Hi.
It's my lovely wife, Jerry.
Did you hug when you first saw each other?
Couldn't.
You could.
They told us not to.
We
should have.
like I said, we were more compliant. I was out mountain biking first morning I got back.
Back home and back to life as they knew it. Well, almost.
I've got this brain fog happening.
That and Mark says he's been having issues with his vision.
The nerves from my eye to the brain are kind of squished. It is affecting my peripheral vision that my eye doctor is convinced is due to COVID.
Yet, in spite of it all, not even COVID-19 could stop the Jorgensens from living life to the fullest.
Life itself is a calculated risk.
We always can choose in whatever circumstance we're in. We always have choice. We can choose fear, we can choose love.
Mark and Jerry tell me they are in Costa Rica tonight on their first vacation out of the country since 2020. From the Intermountain Medical Center in Murray, Erin Cox, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thanks so much, Erin. Now, since treating Mark Jorgensen last year, Dr. Todd Vento with Intermountain Healthcare says they've learned a lot about COVID-19. Dr. Vento says he learned from the CDC that Jorgensen could come out of isolation once he was not going to spread the virus to others. The CDC told Dr. Vento that was okay per their new approach to the virus at the time. He says doctors have come a long way over the past 12 months to contain and treat the virus outside of isolation methods.
So scientific explosion of knowledge and what to do from pre-exposure, after exposure, early monoclonal antibody for outpatients to prevent admissions and severe disease, what medicines to give in the hospital to prevent going onto the ventilator.
Dr. Vento says other major factors to try to control the spread of COVID-19 are mask wearing, social distancing, and now getting your COVID-19 vaccine.
And some good news on the vaccine front tonight. The Johnson & Johnson vaccine got the green light from the FDA this weekend and will start to be rolled out in some states as soon as tomorrow. Johnson & Johnson's vaccine was found to be about 67% effective in preventing moderate to severe cases. That falls short of Pfizer and Moderna's roughly 95% effectiveness. But Dr. Anthony Fauci is urging people not to be picky about which dose they get, saying all three on the market are safe and effective.
People should take the one that's most available to them. If you go to a place and you have J&J and that's the one that's available now, I would take it.
Johnson & Johnson expects to deliver 20 million doses by the end of March and 100 million by the summer. As far as when Johnson & Johnson vaccine will get to the state of Utah, turns out it is right around the corner.
We should have those shots, we think, on Wednesday, and shots in arms on Thursday and Friday. That's a big deal for our state and for Americans everywhere.
A spokesperson for Utah Governor Spencer Cox says the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine is going to speed up the state's fight against the virus. The spokesperson telling Fox 13 the governor's office is still figuring out how to best utilize the vaccines.
That's some exciting news, though, to tell you about tonight. Fox 13's Sydney Glenn spoke with a doctor in Cedar City and a school nurse in the South San Pete School District about how this single-dose vaccine will be a real game changer for rural Utah.
In bigger cities like here in Salt Lake City, you can be to a COVID-19 vaccine appointment in just a couple of minutes. But in rural areas, it's not so simple. About 10% of Utahns live in rural communities. School nurse Rachel Jensen says sometimes that means it can be difficult to get access to specialists.
Distance can matter, even though those providers are pretty close. Sometimes to see specialists, driving if they have limited resources.
When it comes to COVID-19, the state is desperately trying to vaccinate the population.
We have a supply problem. Demand is far outpacing supply. But with what we know from Moderna and Pfizer, now with Johnson & Johnson, by the end of March and into April, we're going to have a demand problem. And that's going to be a better problem to have.
Right now, there are only two options for vaccines. Both require special storage and 2 doses, which both Jensen and Dr. Jared Gray with Intermountain Healthcare say can be difficult in rural areas. That's why they say the Johnson & Johnson vaccine will be a game changer.
We don't have these large hospitals or pharmacies with, huge buying capacity to store Moderna and Pfizer.
If you get an opportunity to give somebody one shot and you never see them again, you have a little more confidence that they're not going to fall through the cracks.
The newly approved Johnson & Johnson vaccine only requires 1 dose and no special storage.
In a rural setting, that's what gives us the availability in multiple locations besides the health department or Walmart, who can afford to purchase the freezers that store the vaccine.
Another option for a vaccine just brings us one step closer to normalcy.
I think from a world standpoint, this is going to be the one that's going to push us through the finish line.
Healthcare providers say all 3 vaccines are safe. However, the J&J vaccine does not appear to be as effective as the other 2. We have more information on how you can sign up to get vaccinated and who's eligible here in Utah over on our website, fox13now.com. In Salt Lake City, Sydney Glenn, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, Sydney. Let's take a look at some of the numbers right now. And as of today, almost 462,000 Utahns have received at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. More than 254,000 people have received their recommended 2nd shot.
State health officials reporting 465 new COVID-19 cases today. Over the past week, around 11% of people tested positive for the virus. They received a positive test result. Now that continues a downward trend from what we've seen lately. And for the first time in months, the percentage of ICU beds occupied in the state of Utah is below 70%.
4 men and 2 women in our state have lost their lives to the virus, according to today's report. Utah has now lost more than 1,900 lives to coronavirus.
No more drilling on federal lands, no more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
He was emphatic during the debates, and now a drilling ban is in place for all federal lands. Fox 13 News goes in depth to see how it will affect Utah's economy, particularly the Uinta Basin. Still to come in a 360 report.
Plus, as we enter the final days of Utah's legislative session, the fight to preserve Utah's Dixie at Dixie State University heats up. We'll explain what's being planned tomorrow to convince lawmakers to keep the university's name intact.
And we're breaking free from the snow and the winter chill. A nice warm up on the way, but is the warm before our next storm? We'll take a look at it after the break.
Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a 3rd time, okay?
A lot of applause from that statement there. That's former President Donald Trump teasing a potential 3rd run for the White House during his speech at the last day of this year's Conservative Political Action Conference in Florida, or CPAC. It's his first public appearance since leaving the White House. Now, in his remarks, the president made it clear that he has no interest in starting a 3rd party, but he says he'd like to see the Republican Party reunite following the GOP's loss of the White House and Senate.
President Joe Biden is calling for quick action on his nearly $2 trillion COVID relief bill. It narrowly passed the House this weekend and now moves on to the Senate. Republicans are crying foul about extra things in the bill, like more funding for infrastructure and the arts. Democrats wanted to pass a $15 an hour minimum wage proposal in the House, but the Senate parliamentary ruled that including the minimum wage in the relief package would break Senate rules.
Tomorrow on Utah's Capitol Hill, the Senate Education Committee will be hearing the bill that would allow Dixie State University to change its name.
Fox 13 is told negotiations over the bill continue, including discussions over more of a public process. Supporters say the name has to go because it has ties to the Civil War Confederacy and it's hurting recruitment and retention. Now, opponents say changing the name Dixie is giving in to political correctness. Also happening tomorrow, a protest is planned at 11:30 at the Clock Tower on the Dixie State campus. The demonstration is in opposition to the possible name change.
Fox 13's John Franke explains why those who want to keep the name don't plan on letting it go quietly.
It will be a very large but very peaceful protest. A lot of very wonderful people It'll be a lot of fun.
Tim Anderson is a member of the Defending Southwestern Utah Heritage Coalition.
It means, pioneers going to the confluence of the Virgin and the Santa Clara rivers back in the middle of the 19th century.
The group hopes to persuade lawmakers from changing the name of Dixie State University.
And the name Dixie has a whole different meaning than may have been attached to it at another place and another time.
Anderson believes having a conversation about the history of southwestern Utah will show the name Dixie, when used here, does not have a racist connotation.
It has a different story. See, this is not like a part of the country that had anything to do with the Confederacy.
Last week, dozens of Dixie State students rallied outside the Utah State Capitol, urging lawmakers to change the name. They argue the name affects outgoing students with prospective employers who may associate Dixie with the Confederacy.
We still want to honor the heritage of Southern Utah and Dixie, and Utah's Dixie, but we also understand that the name Dixie is hurting the students and is impacting the students on a national level.
But those who want to keep the name believe that is an overreaction.
This is pioneers in a very inhospitable part of the southwestern United States that, life was short and life was hard.
That removing the name of Dixie State could be the first step in erasing the history of Southwest Utah.
Come hear our story. Be a part of, be here, learn about the Dixie spirit, what this community is about.
The bill to change the name will be heard in the Senate Education Standing Committee Monday at 4 o'clock. In Salt Lake City, John Franke, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Thank you, John. Now, the university tells Fox 13 they're aware of the protest and they've been in contact with organizers. They say there are no threats that they're concerned about, but police will be present during the entire event. We understand there will be designated areas for each side, both for the name change and against it.
Well, turning to weather now, a little chilly across the state today, Breck, but from our conversations early tonight at 5 o'clock, you may have alluded that we might get some spring-like skiing conditions this week.
I think so. Yeah, we're going to see a nice warm-up in the forecast, but this weekend it was cold. We found temperatures statewide where we typically find them in the end of January rather than the last week of February, where temperatures were 10 to 15 degrees below normal. Just sharing a photo from Chris Williams, pink coral sand dunes near Kanab. You can see why they call it that. You see that pink coral there, or at least the pink color. Beautiful sunset, though, where the sunset on this weekend, we had a mixture of weather with the snow showers, yes, the cold temperatures, but we get a nice break. It seems like we kind of put winter all in one month where, yeah, for the month of February, we did quite well as far as building up that snowpack. Official high today, 37 degrees. On average, we should be in the upper 40s. Looking at the record high, 69 degrees. We're not going to be breaking any records, but as I said earlier, the possibility of seeing 60s is definitely in the forecast. But across the state today, we didn't even make it out of the 30s from Logan all the way through Provo, and pretty much statewide. Vernal, Price, you see your temperatures mid-30s. We did get up to low 50s in St. George. Currently along the Wasatch Front, it is going to be a cold night. Clear skies. We're already seeing temperatures in the 20s, Ogden through Provo, as we'll be getting down into the low 20s and even teens across some locations along the Wasatch Front. All right, let's give you an update. I mentioned February. It was good as far as bringing in water, building up that snowpack. We picked up, at least at the Salt Lake City International Airport, 1.75 inches. On average in February, we should get 1.2. So this month, finally finding one month where we've had a string with several months below average precipitation, we were above. That's the valleys. The mountains doing quite well. Alta, looking for the month of February, you had 155 inches added to the snowpack. As we look over the past decade, there's only one other month that we saw more than that. That was January 2017. If you remember that year, that was a record-breaking year. So this is good. As you can see, on average for Alta for the month of February, it's 90 inches, so above normal, as you would expect again across the northern mountains. It's fairly clear. Central and southern eastern Utah still holding on to a few high clouds. Extreme northern Utah, Cache Valley over towards Rich County as well. No threat of any showers. No, we're letting go of the snow. The chances of precipitation, high pressure building in, we're allowing that air to warm up. Our next storm hits, it's pushing southward, and in its sights is central and southern Utah by the middle of the week. It looks to bring a chance of some rain showers across the south. But again, that's looking towards Wednesday into Thursday. For tonight, it's clear, and we'll start the work week off clear as well. It's cold though. Morning lows down into the teens as we look in Provo. Single digits in Park City, Evanston as well. Teens through central Utah. Temperatures near 30 degrees in St. George. Tomorrow's highs bumping up. We're into the 40s along the Wasatch Front, even seeing some 50s like in Milford, and we're in the 60s in St. George. Now for St. George, we'll continue to climb. I mentioned that midweek storm. It brings a chance of some rain on Thursday. Good to go for the weekend and a few days with temperatures in the 60s. Northern Utah, it's 40s to 50s. Continue to climb Wednesday. A little cooler on Thursday with some clouds. We don't see the showers. We see 60s though in the forecast for Saturday. Next storm looks like it potentially brings a possibility of some showers next week Sunday, but it looks like rain.
I'm in Vernal, where there are ripples going through this community because of the moratorium on oil and gas leases ordered by President Biden. We'll find out how people are feeling here in the Uinta Basin.
One Draper entrepreneur was called and harassed simply because she's a black business owner. Coming up, hear her story.
Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Two local business owners sharing their story after they say they received phone calls and were harassed for simply being black business owners.
Fox 13's Diego Romo spoke with one of those businesses about this incident.
It all began Thursday night when two Draper businesses were called and harassed by a man who took issue with the fact that they are both black-owned.
That's why I'm confused that you called and asked if I was a black-owned business and then started attacking me for no reason.
I wasn't attacking you. I'm just trying to prove a point that it's very sickening that people are writing black-owned business.
That was Julius Thompson, owner of Sauce Boss in Draper, speaking with a man who identified himself as Lee. Thompson wasn't the only target.
I received a phone call from a gentleman at 9:41 on Thursday evening. Didn't think it would be business related at all because it was so late.
The caller asked if Rita Magaldi's bakery was a black-owned business. When she said yes,
he then veered off on, Black History Month, and why is there a Black History Month? Why isn't there an Asian History Month or Brown History Month? He said that there was going to be a race war in this country.
The two separate phone calls with Thompson and Magaldi shared many commonalities, but probably the most surprising was how the two entrepreneurs responded.
I felt that I should stay calm and kind of reason with them a bit.
Rather than come back with hateful words of their own, both Thompson and Magaldi saw the conversation as a teachable moment.
Not get angry, that was the main thing.
Magaldi and Thompson spent a combined 55 minutes on the phone with the man, trying to come to an understanding. Magaldi says this is not the first time she has been harassed for being a black business owner.
We are not victims. We want to be part of the community. We want to be active members in the community, hardworking members, but we're not looking for handouts.
Magaldi wants to share her story to show that in order to overcome our differences, we must come from a place of empathy.
If somebody lashes out at you, to lash back. That's human nature. But my experience is that when you do that, you get nowhere with that person. In fact, you, in a way, justify their behavior.
Julius Thompson was not available for an interview today, but agreed to let me use parts of the phone call to show that a little bit of understanding can go a long way. In Salt Lake City, Diego Romo, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Coming this summer, feminine hygiene products will be free in all bathrooms on Utah State University's Logan campus.
This change was made possible by USU student Brock Hardcastle through his role as the school's business senator. He was able to find an available grant online to fund the change throughout the campus. And while there are currently feminine hygiene products available in the USU women's bathrooms, Hardcastle says the situation was not ideal as they still cost a quarter.
I'm glad that those products are available, but I mean, it's 2021 now and no one carries quarters. And it also just brings up the question on, like, we don't charge for toilet paper, so why are we charging, for tampons?
Now, Hardcastle says his next goal is to make feminine hygiene products free in bathrooms on all of Utah State's campuses across Utah.
In my view, we've already waited too long to deal with this climate crisis. We can't wait any longer.
If drilling is gone, then it really handicaps the local economy.
Fox 13's Bob Evans goes in depth and takes a look at what an oil and gas drilling ban could do to Utah's Uinta Basin. It's coming up next in tonight's 360 report.
No more drilling on federal lands. No more drilling, including offshore. No ability for the oil industry to continue to drill, period. Ends.
When candidate Joe Biden made that declaration during the Democratic presidential debates, oil and gas companies had already been stockpiling leases to drill on federal land. They knew that throughout his political career, now President Biden believed banning new drilling on federal land was a key to reducing carbon emissions.
And the president has so far followed through with his campaign promise, imposing a 60-day moratorium on new oil and gas leases and new drilling on federal land.
Yeah, big issue here for Utah. Fox 13's Bob Evans joins us in studio tonight with an in-depth look at the impact here in our state in tonight's 360 report. Bob.
Brian and Amy, President Biden's declaration of no more drilling sent chills down the spines of many Utahns who live in the oil and gas-rich Uinta Basin. They've been through boom and bust cycles before, but this time it's different.
It's 5:30 on a Tuesday morning in Vernal, Utah. Eric Weldon is headed to work in the oil fields of Rangeley, Colorado, about 50 miles east.
I think deep down I knew I'd end up out here.
Eric studied English in college in California and thought he was going to be a journalist. But with a wife and new baby on the way, he needed to pay the bills.
We'll build pipelines and kind of build the infrastructure around it, build plants and set tanks.
It's perfect for Eric.
You get to build stuff, you get to break stuff.
Eric's grandfather, George, founded Weldon Construction in 1975 in Vernal as a welder with a bulldozer and a road grader. His son, Mike, Eric's father, now runs the company.
We do everything above drilling. We build locations, we build pipelines.
Almost 60% of the land in Uinta County is owned by the federal government, and 85 to 90% of Weldon construction projects depend on the oil and gas industry. But as one of his first acts in office, President Biden halted any new oil and gas leases and any new drilling on federal land.
So certainly it is troubling when, with the stroke of a pen, we have such sweeping policy changes.
Ricky Rankle Browning is president of the Utah Petroleum Association.
There's actually been two different policies that have come out from the administration. The first is a 60-day pause that covers almost any federal approval through a very small handful of folks in D.C.
If drilling is gone, then it really handicaps the local economy.
How's everything tasting, guys?
Betty's Cafe on Main Street in Vernal has been an iconic gathering place for decades.
All right, you guys enjoy.
But with a reduced demand for oil during the pandemic.
The town's in tough shape, but we've got some basis, but not a lot.
A lot of people have had to sell things.
Dave Everett has been a server at Betty's for a long time, working for Lynn Johnson. Dave is also on the Vernal City Council.
People are liquidating trucks, snowmobiles, motorcycles, all of these things that they could afford prior when they were employed in the oil industry.
The divide between Washington and rural America has been historically wide, especially when it comes to land issues. The red indicates land owned by the federal government.
And these people are making decisions that are life-altering, that are changing people's whole entire way of life and living and their families and disrupting, and they don't know. They don't have a clue.
We have a moral obligation to not say, well, it's too bad, but to say, what can we do to help?
Democratic State Representative Joel Briscoe of Salt Lake City favors renewable energy sources and has been following the transition for years. Currently, 12% of the energy consumed by Utahns comes from renewable sources. The other 88% comes from coal and natural gas.
One thing Americans appreciate is paying a lower bill, and energy produced by solar and wind is cheaper in many instances.
And produces fewer carbon emissions once constructed. The renewable energy industry in this country is booming. Prior to the pandemic, at the end of 2019, Utah ranked 25th in the nation for the number of people employed in clean energy. In fact, the Provo metro area was 4th in the nation per capita. But Briscoe admits there aren't a lot of oil wells being drilled in Provo.
Which is why we have to open our arms and our pocketbooks to make sure that we have a solid plan in place and don't stint on helping our friends and neighbors and our brothers and sisters make this transition over years.
But I don't know that you can replace an oil and gas job quite as easily as we've been hearing from some administration officials. When you look at wages, for example, here in the state of Utah, oil, gas, and mining have the highest wages in the state, neck and neck with IT, above financial services, and certainly above a solar panel installer.
If the oil and gas companies can't drill, they're not going to buy local services.
Affecting contractors like Weldon Construction and all the shops and businesses where oil and gas workers spend their money. But that's not all.
It blows the hole in a lot of state budgets.
University of Wyoming professor Tim Considine studied the economic impact of the moratorium on 8 western states, including Utah.
Can have some big impacts on state finances by reducing tax revenues from severance taxes, ad valorem taxes, and the state share of federal royalties.
Which supplements everything your tax dollars pay for, including police and fire, schools, libraries, conservation districts.
All being affected by a revenue shortfall.
Even if you don't live or work here in the Uinta Basin, the entire state benefits from these industries. In 2018, oil and gas production paid $46 million in property taxes. Federal disbursement of fees attached to leases paid another $150 million. That's almost $200 million in a single year.
Today is Climate Day at the White House, and which means that today is a Jobs Day at the White House.
In announcing the moratorium on new leases and new drilling on federal land, President Biden said the reason he was doing so was to protect the environment.
In my view, we've already waited too long to deal with this climate crisis. We can't wait any longer.
But a moratorium on drilling only reduces the supply of oil and natural gas, not the demand.
It's unlikely to affect the demand for oil overall because there are a lot of substitutes for federal oil.
Oil from federal lands made up just 8% of the total U.S. oil production in 2019. The moratorium only affects new leases and new wells on federal land. Companies with current permits to drill can continue to do so, but those permits will eventually run out. And when they do, experts say billions of dollars in investments and future revenues will be lost, and the surrounding communities will lose millions in tax revenues.
I want to emphasize that, yes, take a breath.
Republican 1st District freshman Congressman Blake Moore represents the Uinta Basin. Everyone he talks to here asks about the transition away from oil and natural gas.
When you talk about potential shift to clean energy being the dominant source, it's the process in which we go to get to that point. What jobs are going to be created? How can we make sure to sustain living wages? Right? You have to have that as the key part of it.
Moore sits on the House Committee on Natural Resources and is trying to build relationships.
Let the process take place, see where the plan is, and adjust it and hopefully influence it as best we can. We simply don't have the infrastructure to switch everything to solar and wind, right? It's not possible.
Governor Spencer Cox and 16 other governors sent a letter to President Biden last week asking that he rescind the executive order halting all new leases and all new drilling on federal land and outlining the potential damage to rural Americans if he doesn't. But no one is holding their breath.
Eagle Country, 105.5 KLCY. It's the afternoon show.
Evans Family Media runs the local radio station.
What we're not used to is an attack by our own federal government. And that's what we're feeling right now with these series of executive orders that are targeting families.
With the downturn in oil demand brought on by the pandemic, Vernal's unemployment rate is already almost twice that of the rest of the state.
It's wrenching. Transitions are wrenching. They are discomforting. They are scary.
Especially when it's your livelihood and something as basic as how you get your electricity.
We're going to survive this. We're a very resilient group of people out here.
A public-private partnership is already giving Uinta Basin residents some options.
Our goal is to help diversify and give a second form of income other than the oil and gas industry.
The new Innovation Hub in Vernal provides a collaborative office atmosphere at very little cost. Anyone can use it.
Just clean up that right there. Finish that out for the day.
Weldon Construction was wise enough to diversify back in the 1990s with government and other commercial contracts. And now Eric Weldon is part of that legacy.
Every morning when I come to work and I see that Weldon Construction sign out there, it's not just me, it's my family that I represent. It's my dad who started it.
It makes you proud. Then to see them follow you, that they will continue after we're gone.
This isn't going away though. It doesn't really, they can pretend, It feels like they are.
Creating new, good-paying jobs in those communities where those workers live because they help build this country.
We'll go get another job when they start flying Air Force One on solar panels.
Yeah, right?
Like a good family, we really know how to fight.
We're almost at the end.
We also know how to get together when times are tough.
Go to sleep, okay? Love you.
Now, it is clear that both sides in this issue are sincerely concerned about their way of life and viewpoints, and there's no question each wants the best result. Despite not being able to depend on clean energy as a sole source of our electricity, technology is advancing, and a shift will eventually come. In the meantime, everyone will keep talking and hopefully keep listening. And as they do, we'll keep reporting. Live in studio, Bob Evans, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Bob, thank you for that very in-depth report. In just a few minutes, Bob will be live on the Fox 13 Facebook page to answer any questions you have on the oil and gas drilling ban on federal land and its wide-ranging impact on Utahns. Join him coming up in just a few minutes, only on our Fox 13 Facebook page.
Well, let's take a look outside right now. Satellite radar showing no activity, a break from the storms. We're going to get that break, but for how long? I'll let you know after the break. Well, as we start off, I want to share a photo actually a video I should say, where someone was up snowmobiling Elk Valley, Cache County. Looking off to the right of your screen, as he was tracking up on that steep slope, he triggered this avalanche about 50 yards wide, just a few feet away from that danger and that slide off, just revealing once again that we do have precarious situations as it pertains to the avalanche. High concern level still across extreme northern Utah with all this new snow. Considerable danger though as we look towards central into southern Utah, as we're looking at for most of the Wasatch Mountains. That's going to be the scene. Now, we're not going to see additional snowpack here, at least across the north, as we're going to get an extended break from the storms. And what will that do for the avalanche situation? I'll let you know in just a few moments. But right now in Salt Lake City, a few high clouds. It's going to be a clear night, and it's going to be a chilly night. We're already at 30 degrees with overnight lows dipping down into the low 20s. As it is clear, storms have been moving away, high pressure beginning to build in. So for tonight, it will be clear. We're not seeing any activity from radar. That is good news. No lake effect snow, no issues as it pertains to your Monday morning commute. And really for the next few days, your travel impact should be minimal, at least for northern Utah. High pressure building in. There is a storm that we're keeping our eye on. It's digging southward. As it does dig southward, moves through California into portions of Nevada, Arizona, it will make a mark across central and southern Utah late Wednesday into Thursday. And coming in from the south, it mainly looks to bring some rain showers for the valleys and some snow up in the mountains. Let's take a look at that, confirming it, looking at our computer models where, again, I move from tonight through tomorrow. It's clear. We don't see the clouds. We get the sunshine. and even some warmer temperatures. That high pressure benefiting us, bringing that warmer air as temperatures look to climb above normal. Now, as we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, we start to see that storm making its move. It gets here late Wednesday into Thursday. You see those scattered showers, a lot of green. Again, rain in the valleys, snow in the mountains, up through central Utah. So from St. George, Kanab, Moab, up through about Nephi, we see that possibility of some showers, and then that storm moves on. So northern Utah, you're getting a break. Next week, Sunday, though, we might see some brief showers, but no big storms to talk about. And again, no winter weather, where as we keep the flow out of the south, we're going to keep those temperatures above normal. So your hour-by-hour forecast to start off in your Monday morning, it is going to be cold, but clear. Temperatures below normal, even for afternoon highs, but we're warmer, getting up into the 40s in Salt Lake City and 60s in St. George. Now for St. George, you're going to continue to climb. We're into the 70s. Then we see a chance of some rain showers on Thursday. A little bit cooler, but back into the 70s, on tap for a gorgeous weekend next weekend. Northern Utah, 40s to 50s, upper 50s on Wednesday. Then we start to see some clouds, but then 60s heading into the weekend. That chance of some rain showers next week, Sunday. So we get to say goodbye for winter, at least for this week.
Coming up in sports, Tony Finau honored Tiger Woods. Mike Weir in great shape for his first win on the Champions Tour. And the Aggies had a rare Sunday game at home against Nevada. The highlights are on the way. Today's Utah women's basketball game against Colorado was canceled due to COVID-19 issues with the Utah program. This was their final game of the regular season, and it may end their season altogether. The Utes say the decision regarding the Pac-12 tournament, which starts on Wednesday, has not been determined, as they are in the preliminary process of contact tracing. Utah State played a Sunday game at home against Nevada. First half, Alfonso Anderson knocks down the three. He scored 6 straight for the Aggies. He finished with 12 points. Then they go inside to Nehemias Keita. Yeah, he knows how to finish at the rim. Marco Anthony gets it to him again. Another throwdown by Keita and a double-double, 26 points, 13 rebounds. The Aggies pulled away in the second half. Keita to Anthony this time, the breakaway. He scored 11. Then from the outside, Keita with one of his 6 assists to Justin Bean. Drains 3 of his 17 points. The Aggies rolled to an 87-66 win. They're now 13-4 in the Mountain West, has them a half game out of first place. In the NBA, the Clippers took on the Bucks. Giannis Antetokounmpo leading the way for the Bucks, takes it in for the throwdown. That one was nice. This one is better. Giannis with 3 big steps and the dunk. The Bucks held on to beat the Clippers 105-100. They fall 4 games behind the Jazz. Tony Finau among a group of PGA Tour players wearing red on Sunday in honor of Tiger Woods during the final round of the World Golf Championship event in Florida. Finau made a triple bogey 7 on the second hole, but he bounced back. Birdies on 3 of his next 4 holes. Then on the par 5 7th, how about this one? Chips it up and in for an eagle 3. Come on. Tony shot a final round 72, finished 14th at 9 under par. He moves up a spot to 5th in the FedEx Cup standings. He's 14th in the world rankings. The tournament belonged to Colin Morikawa. He took a 3-shot lead with his birdie at the 12th, then went on to win by 3 shots at 18 under par after a final round 69. His 4th win on the PGA Tour, first since winning the PGA Championship last year. Former Utah resident and former BYU Cougar, Mike Weir, 2-shot lead going into the PGA Champions event in Tucson. This is his second shot on the par 3 7th. He knocks it in, a birdie, and a 3-shot lead. The 2003 Masters champion going after his first win on the Champions Tour. On the next hole, another birdie to extend his lead to 4 shots. But Kevin Sutherland made a charge on the final holes, chips in for birdie on the difficult 16th. Weir made bogey, so they were tied for the lead. Sutherland took over the lead with a birdie on the 17th and tapped in for the win. Weir finished alone in second place, 2 shots back. Coming up, we'll check in with the Jazz after yesterday's win over Orlando. College basketball, Cougars, Utes, and Aggies. The BYU football team starts spring camp tomorrow, and Weber State's football team started the season yesterday. Tonight on the Fox 13 Sports page. We'll be right back.
Thanks for watching Fox 13 News at 9. Quickcast is coming up next.